The following podcast contains assloads of spoilers. We here at Two NerdSkis in a podcast are firm believers in preserving all the surprises of a genuine film viewing experience. And Bruce Willis was a ghost the whole time. Alright, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
Oh my god, I smell shenanigans!
I have no idea what's going on, but I am excited.
Yeah, baby, yeah!
Ever dance with the devil in the pit?
Inconceivable!
Cowabunga.
I thought this was a party.
It's Two NerdSkis and a podcast.
With Eric
And Jeff.
Well, hello everybody. Pleasure to see you all again. Jeff's looking mighty fine. So, we're back. And we have a brand new format. For those of you who know us, I'm Eric. That's,
I'm Jeff. How you doing?
So we're trying something different. We're finally trying visual for a change. Something to diversify the YouTube channel for. We will still be doing audio recordings as well, but now we have visuals. We might share some visual stuff here and there, see what happens.
Oh yeah, and if you see me looking in two different directions, you're gonna see cutbacks between this and the my Sony A6400. So yeah.
And here I am with just a regular fucking webcam at 1080 or 720, whatever the fuck. Anyways, first things first before we get started, where the hell have we been? I'll make this very brief. Long story short, Jeff wanted to go pursue some projects of his own. I was like, go for it, dude. Absolutely. And I was all set to like continue doing the show without him, and Jeff would just come back and like guest appearances, but ultimately I decided this show really isn't the same without Jeff, and so we decided to just go and just take a break. And I've actually been working on my own personal projects. I'm an editor now for a small YouTube channel called Philosophy of Gaming. You guys check it out. I'll leave it in the description below, of course. Really cool stuff. Marshall and Sean, those guys, really insightful in video games. I think you guys will really enjoy their content. So, anyways, we're back officially and hopefully here to stay. Fingers crossed. I will say though, Jeff, your background looks a lot better than mine. I actually look like an apartment, and I don't know, whatever the fuck you looks. And then there's Tobey Maguire, like, in the background, just like, now chew on. Is it now chew on this? Now dig on this. Fuck. I did it again. Anyways, that is actually, well, as you can see by Jeff's background and my t-shirt, we're finally here to talk about our favorite superhero character, at least from Marvel on my end, Spider-Man. Known all around the world as one of the greatest superheroes of all time. It's him, Superman, and Batman. Those are usually the top three. And he's really been a real big cultural influence for a lot of us. I know I definitely have my history with Spider-Man. Like, I grew up with watching the 90s animated series. I've seen the other animated series, like Spectacular Spider-Man, I think is incredible. I played the games. Obviously, Spider-Man for the PS4 is fantastic. Don't forget Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man the movie game based off the first movie. And, of course, the movies. Now, here's something I would like to briefly mention is that I pretty much remember... I don't remember all of my movie-going experiences, but I always will remember my Spider-Man movie-going experiences.
Oh yeah. It was one of those event movies that you just had to be there to really understand what a big fucking deal these movies were.
Well, especially the Raimi trilogy, because those were... You have to think about it. Superhero movies weren't really big at the time. So you had, I mean, obviously you had Blade, and then you had X-Men. Prior to that, you had all the Batman movies and the Superman movies. But once Spider-Man hit the big screen, it was like a whole new ball game had started. I remember going to see Spider-Man 1 in theaters opening day, and I distinctly remember someone face painted their face to look like the Spider-Man mask. What can I say? It was great. It was amazing. Pun intended.
Yeah, I definitely Spider-Man 1, that was actually the first superhero movie I ever saw. You know, I didn't grow up reading comics or anything. Didn't really watch any superhero animated shows or anything. But something about, I remember seeing the commercials on TV and just thinking, wow, this looks really freaking cool. And God, yeah, I will never forget seeing Spider-Man for the first time on the big screen in 2002. That you know, I got the toys, I got the PS2 game, which is still a lot of fun.
Same here.
And yeah, it was just an event, and the hype for the rest of the for Spider-Man 2 and 3 were off the fucking charts. Like, I remember all the times I would discuss among my friends. You know, we would just speculate about what was going to happen next, and then I think that's how I discovered. You know, before the movies came out, that's how I discovered characters like Dr. Octopus and Venom, because I never heard of these fucking characters.
Venom. Sorry, reflex there. But no, Jeff is right.
I don't know what that was.
Jeff is right though. Like, you have to understand, Spider-Man was huge. Like, it was such. As I said earlier, it was such a game changer for comic book movies in general that you don't really get the MCU without Spider-Man. I mean, arguably you don't get it without Blade, to be fair, or the X-Men. But the truth of the matter is, Spider-Man really paved the way for what superhero movies could really become.
I mean, and honestly, like, not only that, you know, when movies like, you know, Infinity War and Endgame come out, you know, it's undeniably these giant spectacle events.
Absolutely.
But you know, with the superhero genre being, in my opinion, over fucking saturated to an unbearable degree, the OG Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies kind of, you know, for the newer generations who weren't around when those came out, you know, those just kind of blend in with the crowd with all the other superhero movies. And that's why I reemphasize, you really just had to be there.
It's true. You really did. So then, after the Raimi movies, after, unfortunately, Spider-Man 4 was canceled because there were supposed to be 4, Sony decided they wanted to change. Anyways, they decided to change up the game. Sam Raimi, Sam Raimi, the director of all 3 of those movies, just parted because obviously Sony wanted to go a different way, and Sam actually had integrity. So they decided to do a new Spider-Man, and that's where we get Andrew Garfield. Now, Tobey Maguire is phenomenal as Spider-Man and as Peter Parker. He is everyone's OG's favorite. He's basically Marvel's. I mean, if Robert Downey Jr. is synonymous with Iron Man, then everyone's going to remember Tobey for Spider-Man. And same thing with, like, Christopher Reeve with Superman. So then you have a new guy come in, Andrew Garfield. And his 2 movies, arguably, are not the best Spider-Man movies. But a big reason to go back to them is because Andrew Garfield is basically Spider-Man. Like, he is born for this role. Like, he really, truly, like, embodies Spider-Man in a way that Tobey really could not do.
Andrew got fucked over, man.
He truly did, which is a shame. And so much so to the point that, like, Sony lost all interest after Amazing Spider-Man. Like, Amazing Spider-Man made money, but unfortunately the negative reception was just so bad. So then literally a year after the movie was released, it was announced that Sony and Marvel were going to team up to bring Spider-Man into the MCU.
I mean, that deal only ended up happening because of the giant Sony leak that
right, I forgot about that.
And so I think it was just at negotiations at that point, but you know, when all that information leaked, that kind of pushed them over the edge, and they kind of said, well, shit, I guess we have to do this now.
Yeah, it's very true. But, you know, for what it's worth, I mean, I like Tom. Tom Holland is great as Spider-Man and Peter. Like, he's kind of like a perfect kind of balance of both. Like, Tobey really embodies Peter Parker. Andrew Garfield really embodies Spider-Man. Tom is usually considered the best balance of the two personalities and personas. The problem is the MCU Spider-Man movies up to that point, so Spider-Man Homecoming and Spider-Man No Way Home. I mean, Spider-Man Far From Home. We're getting into No Way Home, but those two movies definitely better than the Amazing Spider-Man movies. But there was something lacking. Like, it didn't feel like Spider-Man. Like, you're watching more, because as everyone knows, he was first introduced in Captain America: Civil War. It's basically a glorified cameo, and basically he's being raised to be Tony Stark's like protege. So Iron Man or Iron Boy 2.0 or whatnot. But what happens is after Far From Home, Sony and Marvel have a bit of a disagreement, and so it looks like Tom is not going to have a third outing, and then they eventually reach a agreement to at least do one more film, and that's how No Way Home gets into it. So let's get into No Way Home then. As a result, let's start more with. So it's funny that I was actually driving back from work today, and I was thinking about how, like, I remember when we talked to Reese during that fantastic special with him, how, like, I remember we were talking about all the news, and I remember almost word for word what you said, Jeff, which was like, yeah, what the fuck is going on with this movie? Because it's almost like every week we heard something new was happening. Like, we heard like jokes like Batman was gonna show up, that like that like the Ninja Turtles were gonna show up. Obviously all fake, but like the news around this was just so incredible. Like, what the hell were they gonna do? And obviously this was when COVID had just started too. So who knows? But as trailers leaks and stuff came out, it became true that it looked like we were gonna get something special, because it looked like we got Alfred Molina from Spider-Man 2 as Doc Ock back. Willem Dafoe was coming back. Actually, the first confirmed casting was Jamie Foxx as Electro, and we were like, how's this gonna work? And it was definitely interesting, to say the least, how it happened. So finally all the trailers come out. Everything's all cryptic and stuff or whatnot, except for we know that Spider-Man, as we know at the end of Far From Home, his identity is outed, and of course we get to
I could have written my memoir faster than you're giving this entire description.
The point is basically his identity is outed, and like Peter wants to try and find a way to like keep out of the spotlight, and then all of a sudden like all these villains start showing up out of nowhere, and you're like wondering what's going on. That's the best way I can summarize this. So anyways, go ahead.
I have the talking pillow now. So the MCU Spider-Man movies were some of the most forgettable movie-going experiences I've kind of sat through. I don't dislike either of them, but they're just like, I would say, 65 to 70% of the MCU movies for me. It's just so in one ear and out the other. It's like, I'm reasonably entertained while I'm watching it, but it just leaves no impact whatsoever, and I basically forget the whole movie the moment the credits start rolling. So when this movie was announced, I just thought, whatever, it's another Spider-Man movie. It was gonna happen, but yeah, once all those casting announcements started coming, I was definitely curious, but at the same time, I heard a bunch of crazy rumors and everything, but I kind of didn't want to give them the benefit of the doubt because, in all honesty, I've seen a lot of favorite characters come back in movies recently and not be well represented. And I did not want that to happen to my beloved Raimi trilogy. And so I thought, it'll be cool fan service, but it's probably just gonna be like overbearing MCU humor nonstop, and they're gonna pull some shit that's gonna take away from the weight of the events of the first three movies, or they're gonna retcon, or maybe they'll act out of character in some way to crack a stupid joke, like they've been guilty of in the past. And so I just wasn't really excited going in. And when it was basically, it was the worst kept secret, let's be honest, that Toby and Andrew were gonna show up. Even then, I was just expecting like a 5-minute cameo, that they walk through a portal during the climax, and just do like a mini, like a smaller scale version of what happened like during the final battle of Endgame, and just they show up, they say a few lines, and they piss off essentially. And even if that wasn't the case, would they give a shit?
Yeah.
Would they actually treat this as a very special occasion, or would they just clear as day give the impression that they just walked in, put the costume on, took their check, and went home? And well, that certainly wasn't the case. And I'm very glad that I was dead ass wrong on this movie.
Well, that was the thing, wasn't it? I wanted to quickly kind of go back just a bit to, I remember when the first trailer dropped, and I saw how like they were basically using nostalgia bait, basically, and I was kind of pissed off, and I was pretty much in the same boat as you, because I was like, so spoilers for movies that were like 20 years old. In all three of the Raimi movies, basically each main villain dies except for Sandman. But the point is like Alfred Molina's Doc Ock had such a really interesting arc, and I felt like for him to show up in this movie would be a disservice to that arc.
Right.
But the way they pull it off, I felt was actually a pretty good way to honor what he went through. And then you get to, you get to Norman Osborn, played by Willem Dafoe, and I like what they did with his portrayal.
Jesus fucking Christ, Willem Dafoe is having the time of his life in this movie, and it is fantastic. He's chewing the shit out of the scenery.
Fuck out of it, yeah.
Oh my god. The moment he showed up, I just had the biggest, stupidest grin on my face. Just him riding that glider again, doing that amazing cackle. It felt like no time had passed. Like, it's hard to believe that it's been 20 years since he played that role, and it just feels like no time has passed whatsoever. It's unbelievable. And what I really like is how they were able to explore more of like Willem Dafoe, as a being, for one, an incredible actor, was able to tap in more into the like mental duality of the Goblin, and was able to chew even more scenery than he did in the first movie. And before we started recording this, I just finished rewatching it, and God, every scene he's in, he's just a goddamn delight.
It's funny you mentioned that because like I was listening to a fan commentary of the movie, and I'm like, it's like they basically basically Alfred and Willem were basically ripped from straight from like the 2000s, and the dialogue they're saying is like 2000s dialogue.
Yeah,
and
totally.
it's like they're being paid for $1 million performances, and they're giving like $4 million performances basically.
They fucking steal it, man. Like, especially Alfred Molina. And my God,
Why do you say Alfred? I'm curious because I thought obviously Willem was the main villain, but why do you think Alfred stole the show for you?
I said they both stole the show.
Oh, for fuck's sake, that's my fault. Shit.
Yeah, no. God, it was just so surreal. Just the fact that this movie exists, and because for one, who the fuck would have ever thought that we would ever see Willem Dafoe come back, and that we would ever see Alfred Molina come back, and they would actually share the screen together.
De-age too, like they used de-aging technology on them as well.
Well, I'm sure, but it was especially on this most recent rewatch. It was the first time I watched it since theaters. So a lot of time had passed, and I'm just kind of just sitting there, just sort of in disbelief still that wow, they actually pulled this off somehow. Like,
yeah,
like this should not work. This should not fucking work, because the last Raimi Spider-Man movie was back in 2007, and Tobey Maguire is basically a producer now, and he, who the hell would have ever expected him to come back, especially when Tom Holland is, widely appreciated, and plus Andrew Garfield. It's like the relationship between him and the studio went to shit. So it's like, that's never gonna happen. And it's like just because I like analyzing what goes on behind the scenes, and just the way Hollywood operates. It is just unfucking real how all the pieces came together to not only make this movie a reality, like the craziest fan fiction premise that you could that they could probably muster, but find a way to do a decent enough job of having an explanation for why this is all happening, but also honoring all the franchises, and honestly just it feels like a celebration of Spider-Man as a whole.
I definitely would agree with that a lot.
And it breaks my goddamn heart that Stan Lee was not alive to see this movie.
It really is. So it's funny. So I also rewatched the movie too before hopping on as well. And I was also like watching clips on YouTube at work because I didn't have the movie. It's fun, and there were a lot of the YouTube comments I saw, especially when like all three Spider-Men were on screen, were like saying like Stan Lee would love that all three of them are together doing this. And this movie, it's nostalgia, but it's a kind of love letter that works.
It's nostalgia done with the proper level of care and respect, where it's because I think the wrong way to do nostalgia is what Star Wars does, where they basically just jingle the keys in front of you, just saying, you remember this, you remember that, but they don't have a strong foundation as a backbone, to where it feels like they're just relying on the past, but they're not doing a good job of telling a good story on its own, creating its own identity, justifying its own existence. And so the fan service just feels desperate and sad. But this tells a good story. This is the first time I've actually liked Tom Holland as Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Like, I didn't have a problem with him. I just thought he was, like, serviceably generic. And it might have just been, at that point, I've seen 3 actors portray the same character in a span of, like, less than 15 years. So I just kind of was just like, whatever. And since both movies just left no impression on me whatsoever, and it just felt like very soft and fluffy, and I don't know, it just never could get on board. And a lot of it was like, I didn't like that he had all the text and the gadgets. I didn't like the fact that he didn't go through a great tragedy, and because that, you know, the great personal tragedy is what establishes his Spider-Man's moral foundation. You know, with great power comes great responsibility, and we didn't see those in the first 2 movies, and so I just thought they were bypassing all that, and that's what I always felt was missing. And so it pretty much fixed a majority of my complaints. I don't think I don't think it's gonna make me go back and just think like, wow, like these movies were actually hidden masterpieces, and now they're my favorite thing ever. Like, I don't know, maybe I'll like the first 2 movies better, but I can at least look back on Tom Holland and officially get behind him as Spider-Man and Peter Parker.
Well, pretty much what I liked a lot about it was that it was basically honoring a lot of everything that had come before. A lot of like the interactions with like all the past characters. Like, it was great to see Jamie Foxx come back. I liked that they did something different with his character, for sure. That they did in a way where it felt more
like not a total embarrassment.
No, so I read that like Jamie took inspiration from actually one of his characters, his character from Baby Driver. So that's why, if you remember Amazing Spider-Man 2, Max Dillon in that movie is kind of just a dweeb or whatnot, becomes a complete paranoid like freak when he becomes Electro, and then in this movie he's obviously like more of like a more chill, almost laid back kind of like villain who like when we meet him eventually after he gets his body back, he's like, you're just gonna stand there and act like I ain't butt ass naked, that sort of shit. And then Thomas Hayden Church, it's unfortunate that he and Rhys Ifans, I think, both came back only in CGI form for their characters, but the fact that we got to see at least Thomas Hayden Church in a movie again was great.
It sounds like he recorded his lines in a day. Like it. So I was giving my praises to, you know, Willem Dafoe and Alfred Molina, you know, all of them giving it their all. Thomas Hayden Church didn't sound like he gave a shit.
I mean,
Peter,
like
it's me, Flint Marko. Remember? Like, oh god, dude, God, like I couldn't believe that they pulled this shit, but the fact they reused a shot from Spider-Man 3 and just changed the background, like that just tells me that you got him for an afternoon and put him in a recording studio to quickly record his dialogue. I guarantee he was not on set for a fucking day.
Well, they did that with Rhys Ifans too, with his footage, if I'm not mistaken. That's just recycled footage from Amazing Spider-Man 1.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's, I mean, because it was kind of, like, I don't know if y'all heard about the little controversy that from effects artists who, you know, who were working with Marvel, how they basically are just worked to the bone to meet those deadlines that they deem completely unrealistic. And I wonder if maybe they were actually on set, but they didn't have time to finish the effects, so they just said fuck it and just grabbed those old footage because it was right there.
Yeah. It's very true. Like a lot of it is there.
That's my little
It's very
conspiracy
apparent
theory.
on screen that they are not there, but you know what? Fuck it. They're there, you know?
Yeah, and so it's like, so I'm also just we'll talk about a certain bully a little later.
Well, what I really would like to talk about really is like some of the changes they made. So what I wanted to bring up real quick are like, so obviously Peter Parker finally in this movie has a tragedy that brings him down to more of the level of Spider-Man we know. So
By
in
the
this
way,
universe,
props to Tom Holland for his acting in that scene. Jesus Christ, that kid is a talented actor.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is a very, very powerful performance. So basically, Aunt May dies in this movie. That's right. Marissa Tomei's character is the one who dies. But before she dies, she's the one to deliver the classic line, "With great power comes great responsibility." Actually, she says, "You have a gift. You have power. And with great power, there must also come great responsibility," which I actually think is what is actually said originally in Amazing Fantasy number 15, and like a caption or whatnot. Not actually said by Uncle Ben, but it's a lesson learned. But basically, I remember a lot of people definitely loved that the line finally showed up, but I know there were definitely people who felt that, why did Aunt May deliver that line? Why was she the one to deliver it? Because it's usually a line associated with Uncle Ben. I was okay with it.
Did they ever establish if Uncle Ben was even a thing in this universe?
So he has Uncle Ben's suitcase in Far From Home. Those are his initials, BFP, Benjamin Franklin Parker.
So they pretty much were too lazy to give an explanation. Got it.
Yeah, unfortunately so. But you know what? It's all right, because in the end, it doesn't really matter at that point, because we've seen Uncle Ben die how many times now by this point? So it's probably let's be honest, it's a refresher at this point. But here's something I really appreciate is that I remember I heard Kevin Feige say that Peter Parker really became Spider-Man in Homecoming when he has to lift the rubble up. Bullshit. Green Goblin turned him into Spider-Man at this point, because if you really think about it, Green Goblin basically kills Aunt May and is basically pushing Peter to become not a better hero, but basically trying to push him over the edge so that when their final fight comes, he's going to be like, "Now you can really fight me, boy." That sort of stuff. Yes, that is my Willem Dafoe voice. But that scene is really impactful because it really shows just how much the Goblin has gotten under Peter's skin at that point. And so I like how that goes from like that shot in the rain where Peter's just looking at that big
is
screen of
gorgeous shot. Holy shit.
It is indeed. And it basically shows Peter just losing all hope and inhibition as like J. Jonah Jameson basically is. Let's be honest, J. Jonah Jameson in the MCU is basically Alex Jones. But yeah, he's basically like just shitting on him the entire time. And then we cut to Ned and MJ. By the way, so Zendaya and Jacob Batalon, I liked them in the first two movies. They were all right. They have a better shining chance in this movie, especially Zendaya, because I didn't really give a crap about her in the first two.
I couldn't stand her in the first two movies, if I'm being honest. And like I said, like this movie fixing a lot of my complaints. This is the first time I've actually given a shit about the relationship.
She didn't feel like a creep this time around. She actually felt like a proper kind of like character or person. She wasn't real all awkward all over the place.
So she had like one personality trait in the first two movies, just deadpan quirky.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, but it's like after a while it gets pretty fucking grating when that's when that's all she's there to do. I mean, I haven't really seen Zendaya in much of anything else. So I mean, like, let's be honest, she didn't do anything in Dune yet. So we'll see.
See, I haven't seen Dune, so don't say too much.
Really? You haven't seen Dune yet?
No, and it's on my HBO Max.
How the fuck
list,
did
so
I see Dune before you?
It happens. But what I like is that like they have that moment at like Ned's house, Ned's aunt's or Lola's house, because and by this point, so long story short, Doctor Strange helped Peter with a spell to help forget everyone, help forget that Peter Parker's Spider-Man. The spell's botched, and for some reasons, Ned gets Doctor Strange's spell ring. So like he's like, I wish we could just see him, and then he flickers. He says that, and something flickers, and then he can open a portal. And the first thing you see is like, it looks like Spider-Man, but then when you see that Spider-Man get closer, then you're like, by the way, okay, we'll get to that. But then you see that Spider-Man run up, he jumps out, and yeah, this Peter's a little bit more buffer. And then you hear like, and then you see him like, obviously, Lola screams, and he's like, sorry, it's okay, I'm a nice guy. He takes off the mask. Andrew Garfield.
So I unfortunately, I did have tickets to see this opening night, but I had to go out of town for work, but so I unfortunately had to give my ticket up. So I saw it a couple days after. But as someone who was there opening night, can you describe the crowd reaction for the scene?
It was like I'll basically put it this way. It was whoa, no way, whoa,
Yep.
Anyone who watches this, basically, I'm just gonna like meme the shit out of myself, basically, at this point.
Honestly, it's a blast watching theater reaction videos during that.
So yes, absolutely. And then here's something I wanted to bring up about Andrew real quick. So at the end of Amazing Spider-Man 2, after Gwen dies, spoilers for that movie. Yes, Gwen Stacy dies. After Gwen dies, basically Peter has lost all hope, and he really has no way to move on. And then he watches Gwen's graduation speech, and it inspires him to be the hope for New York all over again and fight a giant rhinoceros fucking machine. I am the Rhino! Yeah, Paul Giamatti was a mistake as the Rhino. So, at this point, Tom... So, we're going to go by just actor names. So, Tom is at his lowest point. He has no hope. Who better to introduce first than the one to inspire hope? Andrew's Peter. And then, I just love the interaction between him and Zendaya. Where he's like, prove it. Prove what? Prove that you're the real Peter Parker. Prove that you're Peter Parker. I don't carry an ID with me, kind of, like... takes away, kind of like defeats the whole purpose of the secret identity thing, and then like she just throws bread at him.
You're a very mistrusting person.
And I love how he just simply like just hop onto the ceiling and just hangs from his hand, and then like they ask him to just grab a cobweb, and he's like, okay. And I love okay, let me tell you.
And by the way, Ned says we just gotta keep going until we find the real Spider-Man. And who shows up next? Bully Maguire.
What?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Bully Maguire, baby.
Oh yeah.
I cannot fucking believe. It's like I expected him to be in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't expect to enjoy the movie very much, and just thought, it'll be a cool in the moment thing, but man, when he stepped through that portal, it felt like, because I don't think I've seen Tobey Maguire in like on the big screen since Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
And so
Well, I mean, I saw him in The Great Gatsby, but
I didn't
that's
see it.
besides the point. Yeah.
And it was so fucking surreal. It felt like seeing an old friend and just stopping by to say, "What's up?" And man, because honestly, if there was someone who was gonna half-ass it, I thought it would be Toby, because I don't know, he's like a very private person, and I wasn't sure how fondly he looked back on his time as Spider-Man. Like, I don't know if he, looks at it now from a positive or somewhat burned out perspective, where it's just like, yeah, that was a thing I did, but whatever. Like I've moved on. Like basically how Harrison Ford looks at Star Wars, and
Right.
that was not the case. Again, it felt like no time had passed, and it was fucking wonderful. He was wonderful. There's great new Bully Maguire material, which is
Oh, God.
You can't do that, huh?
Look at little Gobby Jr. You gonna cry? Well, no, in all seriousness, because I watched some, I didn't watch all of it, but, like, I watched, like, a bunch of, like, behind-the-scenes interviews of, like, the three of them talking about their experiences, and, like, Toby was, like, all in. Like,
oh yeah.
he was all in. And it's funny, like, Andrew said that, like, if Toby wasn't going to do it, he wasn't going to come back. He was basically just waiting for Toby to say yes, and then he was like, he was in. And so, by the way, I forgot to mention the Toby reaction. The Toby reaction. So after MJ says, yeah, you just, I think you should keep trying until you find the real one. Everyone was like, oh shit. Oh yeah. Like, oh shit. And everyone was, so one of my favorite reactions I've seen on YouTube is basically the audience going, Toby, 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 and then he shows up on screen and he's like, yeah, yeah. But it's true though. Like, dude, it sucks that you weren't there for that, because it's seeing it on opening night with those reactions was so incredible.
Oh yeah, no, it was
especially
just,
when like the
it was-
villains showed up too.
It was one of those rare movie-going experiences that we're probably not going to get ever again.
No,
And
I would agree.
It was just one of those unifying, crowd-pleasing experiences where, like, what was one of the most petty fucking complaints amongst fans for the last, like, decade or so? Like Toby's the best, no, Andrew's the best, no, Tom's the best, and everyone's just flaying shit at each other. And
Andrew actually is the best, by the way, but I'll go into that later.
his movies sucked.
Yes, I mean, yes, his movies are very flawed, but anyways, as you were saying.
But in that moment, none of that shit mattered. It was just like the fact that you just have the three of them hanging out, and Toby's just saying to Andrew, like, you are amazing.
It's true.
That shit's great, man. And it was just fun to see them shoot the shit. Like, I could have just seen a whole movie like around that, and I love the scene where Toby, like, shoots his web, and that's just like, that came out of you.
Yeah,
Like,
you
that
can't do that, huh?
Yeah, and just like just addressing the whole organic web shooter thing, which I actually was surprised to learn that was James Cameron's idea.
Yeah, so in his original script, that was basically an idea that he had. Because they were going to show, I think Sam Raimi wanted to do the actual mechanical web shooters, but they decided it'd be cheaper if they just went with, like, oh, he can just organically shoot web. Does it come out of your wrist, or does it come out anywhere else?
Only the wrist.
What I want before that happened though, one of my favorite lines happens from Andrew was like, "So are you gonna go into battle dressed as a cool youth pastor, or or do you have your suit?"
I love the little moment where, where Andrew's just looking, you're just kind of watching from afar, whatever, Tom and Zendaya, just having a little couples moment, and you see he delivers it very well with just his eyes, and Toby and Andrew have a little moment, and Toby just says, we worked it out, me and MJ, took a while, and because I always felt Spider-Man 3 ended a little ambiguously, where at least like the way I always perceived it is you don't really know if they ended up together, and just knowing that back in Toby's universe, he got his life with MJ, and just that one little moment, just I don't know, made me happy.
Well, that's one of the unique parts about that is that you kind of got little nuggets of like what happened to them in exposition. Like Toby leaves it ambiguous on purpose because actually Toby wanted it to be ambiguous on purpose. I wanted to backtrack on Andrew because actually, so my favorite scene in the entire movie is when all three of them meet on the top of Midtown High School, at Tom's like hiding spot, and so Tom's basically lost all hope, and he's like just cannot move forward, and then like basically, Andrew and Toby are both tell him like their experiences of losing both Uncle Ben and Gwen, and how basically in short summary, if I may put it bluntly, dude, in every universe you live in, your life sucks, but you have to power through it because with great power comes great responsibility. By the way, in my theater, so every time they show that wonderful like silhouette shot of Toby and Andrew on the tower, everyone cheered as fuck, and then you get to where Tom says, "She told me with great power," and then Toby finishes the line, "Comes great responsibility," and everyone was like, "Fuck yeah! Fuck yeah!" Because everyone was so happy that like Spider-Man was finally acknowledging with great power comes great responsibility. And that was such a powerful moment at that point. And I was really happy. And that was such a big crowd pleaser. Like,
oh, yeah.
A real big crowd pleaser. Like, this is a very big crowd pleaser movie. Like, everyone, like, this movie is designed for the crowd pleasing experience. Like, for example, the first real big crowd pleasing moment. So I'm going to backtrack on another big cameo that happened. One of my favorite TV shows of all time is a superhero show called Daredevil,
which I've never seen.
Yes, Jeff has never seen it, but Charlie Cox as Daredevil was like one of the best casting choices to ever happen. So when Netflix, when the show was going on at the time, like there really wasn't any distinction that like how connected are the Netflix shows to the overall MCU. Well, now we have an answer as a cane pops up in the screen and Charlie Cox sits down. Dude, my theater went ballistic when Charlie Cox showed up.
Bet.
Because everyone was so happy that Charlie Cox was officially in the MCU. Not that he wasn't in it to begin with, but now he's officially like considered part of the MCU. And a lot of people are definitely looking forward to seeing him in future projects, especially with his new like revival series coming out for Disney Plus. That is the only thing I'm looking forward from Marvel and Disney Plus, by the way, is that show. I hope it doesn't suck, but that was such a crowd pleasing moment because Daredevil is here to stay in the MCU. That was how big it was when Alfred Molina showed up, like seeing the tentacle and hearing the original cue that Danny Elfman played. Danny Elfman's theme. was excellent, and he's like, "Hello, Peter," and everyone's just like applauded when you hear the bouncing of the pumpkin bomb drop and you see it on screen. Everyone was like, "Fuck yes!"
It was so great just seeing those pumpkin bombs again, seeing that glider, seeing that like the Green Goblin costume from the 2002 movie. Not the greatest thing in the world, but you know what? It's nostalgic. It's the image that I always associate with the Green Goblin. That's just how it is, and I love that it was able to make an appearance both as we remembered it, but we also get to see Willem Dafoe appear how we've always kind of wanted him to appear, and it's like, because I remember like everyone always said like, "God damn it, Willem Dafoe is the perfect casting," but that costume just prevents it from just being just right. And
he looked like a rejected Power Rangers villain, if
pretty
that makes any
much.
sense.
But my God, I love what they did with his appearance. Like right before Aunt May dies, he just hops on the glider and he has like the torn green jacket
and the purple hoodie.
Yeah, it's just it's wonderful. And yeah, just and the fact that because in retrospect, that original Green Goblin design is kind of at least like with the mask, because Willem Dafoe just has some of the greatest expressions ever, and we want to see him chew the fuck out of the scenery.
They're also very memeable as well.
Absolutely.
His facial looks,
and
also he brings back. Well, here, I'll let you finish.
All right, and yeah, the fact that we now get to see him in a fresh design where his face is always showing, and we just see him being so deliciously evil. And god damn it, yeah, I can't emphasize it enough how wonderful it is to see Willem Dafoe play this character again.
Well, like there is like one moment. So here's another crowd pleasing moment. Was like when Peter was like, when Tom is like going like. When Tom was like going like, "Look, our technology is advanced. I think I can help you guys with this."
I'm something of a scientist myself.
Okay, so do you remember I don't remember the very first meme to pop out of that, but like obviously everyone sees that meme everywhere.
It's a meme. Like it deserves to be up on the meme wall of fame.
So when everyone heard him say that, everyone was like, "Yeah, buddy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, buddy."
I firmly believe this movie would never have been made if it wasn't for memes. I think memes made this movie possible. Because
I mean, like, do you know how many memes actually show up in the movie to begin with?
Well, but what kept, what revitalized the love around Tobey Maguire? Bully Maguire.
Pizza Time and Bully Maguire, yeah.
Yep, Bully Maguire means they can... Like, all the famous ones can almost consistently racked up millions of views, and they were always spread around, and then that kind of got the ball rolling on, what if they all came together, and it kept going and going and going, and people went back and found new appreciation for Andrew Garfield's movies as well, but sad to say, Andrew Garfield is not meme material.
Because he actually is really good in the role, but we'll get into that.
But yeah, so I'll just end by saying, you can thank Bully Maguire for this movie existing.
The biggest meme pleaser to happen, besides I'm something of a scientist myself, was when Peter, yeah. Oh, you mean him? And they point to each other. So that was, from what I understand, that was Andrew's idea for them to be
they had to do
point
it.
At each other. Yeah, they had to do it. And then obviously what happens is there's a official production still of them on a black scale just pointing at each other, and you're like, they fucking did the meme. That is incredible.
How could they not do the meme? That would be the greatest missed opportunity in internet history if you actually had all three Spider-Men in costume together in the same frame, and you didn't do the point.
It would be a huge disservice. You had to have done it.
Everyone would have been pissed. And when that image, because that image didn't come out until a while after the fact, and I think
at least a month or two or so.
Yeah, and so when that finally came out, I was like, "Oh shit, it's real."
Oh yeah,
like it was. It was. I would compare it to like Jeff Goldblum reenacting the sexy pose on Jurassic World Dominion.
I was actually thinking more of like, it's that same image of Jeff Goldblum every day doing the shh.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
Oh my god. So one of the biggest other callbacks I really like. So I know you've told me in the past, Michael Giacchino, you weren't like the biggest fan of him. How did you feel about his score this time around? There's
definitely cues in here that I think are really fucking good. But I think I want to say it's like 60% good and 40% just background noise. And I want to say part of that 60% was hearing those original cues from Danny Elfman's score. Like even the fucking Sandman theme from Spider-Man 3 made was featured in there. Just hearing Toby's theme, Doc Ock's theme, just all those great little melodies. No matter how brief they were, just to hear them again in a movie, like that's the power of music, man.
Well, those weren't the only cues that showed up. So Michael Giacchino also used cues from the Amazing Spider-Man movies. So when Electro first shows up and you hear that dubstep like dun, 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 that's from Hans Zimmer's theme for Electro. And then
by the way, I'm sorry that score is awful.
but then you hear the theme for Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, and instead of Hans Zimmer's score, it's James Horner's score from the first movie.
And that music
that
music is good.
Arguably it's, I've heard, everyone loves Danny Elfman's score, but I think James Horner's score for the first Amazing Spider-Man movie is actually really underrated. Because it feels like there's something magical about that score. And it feels like it captures kind of the essence of Spider-Man, at least at that time, really well.
Yeah, definitely. I've gone back and listened to the score, and it's definitely better than I remember. But yeah, I remember Amazing Spider-Man 2 especially. I just thought the music was atrocious in that. Like the whole dubstep approach with Electro, like I couldn't get over that. And yeah, so I remember hearing those subtle melodies in when Electro was showing up, and I'm like, oh Jesus, I swear to God, if you start singing Itsy Bitsy Spider again.
Well, luckily that didn't happen. Luckily they didn't do that. But you know what? I really appreciate what they did in bringing back those old cues. Especially, I mean, obviously hearing like Danny Elfman's cues were great again, but to really hear James Horner's cue being used for...
By the way, R.I.P. James Horner.
Absolutely, for sure. Because I think that was one of his last movies he did, was the first Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, I think he did. What, like 2016?
No, I think, was it 2016 or was it 2013? It may have been 2014.
I'm gonna look that up on the side.
Okay, but in all seriousness, no. Like I really appreciated how they brought that cue back. Because I mean, obviously, the main theme for Spider-Man in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 isn't really that memorable, even though it is Hans Zimmer. But something about James Horner's score, like, really kind of like captures, like I said, that essence of that version of Peter Parker, and arguably maybe even Spider-Man in general.
2015.
It was 2015. Okay. Yikes.
Too damn soon.
Yeah, it really was. I don't know if you noticed this, but they made changes to... they made subtle changes to Toby and Andrew's suits, especially in the mask. Like the webbing on Toby's mask seems off, and then the eyes are a lot bigger and different shaped on Andrew's mask. I don't know if you noticed that.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. Something that I was like kind of off with was that like it was great to see them physically in the suits, but like it would have been great to see them masked up and like because they had full real practical suits when they're masked like in their movies, and then in this movie it's like nope, everyone's a CGI character.
Well, and
which
also
sucks.
like I also didn't like how there was no big beautiful reveal shot for Toby in the costume. Like it's just kind of a far away shot, and it's like I don't know. Like I expected just like a more grandiose introduction to something like that. I don't know.
Well, I definitely like how remember going back to that line of like, are you gonna dress like a cool youth pastor? I love how like Toby just goes like, just peels back his shirt a bit. There's the red, and then they're like, what are those web cartridges for? And he's like, oh, they're for my web shooters. Why? Good shit. It's good shit. But no, I actually do agree with you. I do feel like, I do definitely feel like there should have been a better kind of like reveal for those costumes because of just, especially you're right with Toby, because that was like one of the most iconic superhero movie suits ever made is Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man suit.
Oh yeah, plus just for like kids that were around our age in the early 2000s, Tobey Maguire was like it's fucking Spider-Man.
That was our Spider-Man.
Yeah. And so it's to see him come back, like that's a big fucking deal. And
It really is.
and
Yeah.
so it's him walking through the portal, like it's a wonderful reveal. But I don't know, like I would have liked a better suit reveal shot. So I mean, maybe they'll have like something different in the extended cut that's coming out pretty soon. But oh yeah, by the way, there's one thing that I think is fundamentally wrong.
Okay, let's hear it.
The fact that Willem Dafoe and Tobey Maguire don't even fucking acknowledge each other.
That is kind of bullshit, isn't it?
It is, especially since he, Toby has that little, like that nice little line where he says, I think I can make an antidote for Dr. Osborn. I've been thinking about it a lot, and like that little line alone, that just makes me think, man, maybe he feels like he didn't do enough to save him. Maybe he carries that guilt with him still, especially after everything after what happened with Harry. And all that happens is that he gets stabbed by him, and they basically just look at each other like, oh, what's up? There are behind the scenes photos of Toby and Dafoe fighting.
Yes.
And if that is not in the extended cut, I'm just going to say fuck you. Because it's so important. I think that's such an important moment. And because I don't think there's ever really been an extended cut for an MCU movie to my knowledge. And
So far, no. But then again, I think the difference is this is also a Sony project. So Sony is pretty good with releasing like extended cuts of, well, except for Andrew's movies, but like for pretty much most of like Toby's movies, there've been like the 2.1s, if you will, for those movies, or the point ones, basically extended cuts.
Did you ever see the editor's cut for Spider-Man 3?
I surprisingly have not. I hear I'm not missing much.
There's like it doesn't fix everything, but it definitely it improves on some complaints that a lot of people have had, and I don't know, like I need to watch it again, but yeah, no, I remember really liking the all the additions that they included there.
Because I'm not sure what else I'm really looking forward to in terms of the extended cut. I mean, I hear there's more Charlie Cox, so I'm all for that. But I definitely agree. Obviously, Tom is out for blood, wanting to kill Norman. But the truth of the but like, so they're at that point when So they have that big fist fight, right? By the way, Willem said he would only come back if he got to do his own stunts. To which I'm like, oh, he came back for the movie, all right. To which I'm like, there is no way in fucking hell you did your own stunts. There is no way you did. How old are you? You're in your 60s? No fucking way.
Willem Dafoe is a crazy dedicated motherfucker, so
I mean, yes,
I would not be. I doubt that he did, but if it turned out he did, I would not be surprised in any way, shape, or form.
You know what? I don't know if you knew this. Fun fact: Tobey Maguire, when he shot No Way Home, was the same age as Willem Dafoe when they shot the first Spider-Man.
Oof, that's crazy.
I know, right? That is so interesting. But yeah, I like how what I was getting at is like I like how in that moment when Tom's about to kill Norman, like Toby really just steps in, is like, this isn't what without any words, he just keeps him from using the glider to stab Norman, basically repeating history, or repeating fate. And he's basically like trying to tell him, without using any words, this isn't how we do things. And he just slowly sets it down.
Well, plus earlier, on the rooftop, Toby said that, I got my revenge. Like I hunted down the guy who killed Uncle Ben. I got what I wanted, and it didn't help. And it felt like in that moment he was reminding Tom of that without saying it. He just said it with his eyes, and I loved that. I absolutely loved that. Like this, it really felt like an incredibly respectful passing of the torch, where both Toby and Andrew try to pass on to Tom, the mistakes that they've made along the way through their character arcs, and they're just trying to warn him, like, hey, watch out for this. Like this, it'll save you a lot of, learn from our mistakes. And I think in both regards, because Andrew's like trying to, tell him like, I got rageful and vengeful after Gwen died, and Toby's, like I just said, was saying that, I killed the guy who I thought killed my uncle, and it didn't help. And because that could have been, it's a powerful message, but it's even more powerful by just Toby being a good actor and just saying it with his eyes.
Absolutely. And I definitely absolutely agree with that. Because there's a lot that you can convey in just facial expressions, and in that moment alone, just in that look, he's telling him, remember, you don't want to go down this path. And as a result, Tom loses that inhibition to kill, and it does lead to, unfortunately, Toby getting stabbed in the back, literally. It's all right.
After Andrew just fixed it.
Yeah. Speaking of Andrew, so this leads to the big crowd pleaser. So after Doctor Strange's MacGuffin gets blown up by the pumpkin bomb, and after the Statue of Liberty blows up,
Can Spider-Man come out to play?
I love that. Like, yes.
Well, no, what I love about that is you see the look on, going back to facial expressions, you see the look on Toby's face when he realizes, no, he's here. He just realizes what's about to happen. But after everything blows up,
Acknowledge it.
So after everything blows up, like Zendaya or MJ falls, Tom goes after her, but is intercepted by the Goblin. It looks like everything's all lost. Andrew is like, no! Jumps, catches her, then shoots the web, and then they land safely. It is a very spiritual redemption of what happened to Gwen.
Yeah, it actually, when Gwen died in Amazing Spider-Man 2, I always felt that Andrew's performance in that scene was incredible, but it felt very forced, and
Yeah.
I don't know. It just never it was trying to have that big moment, but I think it blew up in the movie's face. And with this extra context behind it now, I think it retroactively adds weight to that moment.
Absolutely.
And and I think the best way to bring characters like this back is to, not only catch up with them, but also to essentially, like when you go back and watch the earlier stuff, you're able to have an enhanced experience.
Oh yeah.
And which I actually haven't watched any of the Spider-Man movies since, probably with the exception of Spider-Man 2, because I watch that at least like once every 6 months. It's so.
It is a fantastic movie,
Because it's
but
the goddamn best.
By the way, speaking of Spider-Man 2, that is when Doc Ock and Toby reunite for the first time.
Oh
in
my
the movie.
God, that was one of the moments in the theater that just got me. And
Well, did you know that line that Toby delivers, "trying to be better," is actually a callback to
from
what he...
Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
I love that. And it's like I remember reading this YouTube comment when it was still in theaters. Someone had handy cam footage and recorded that scene, and they pointed out that when Doc Ock says like "you're all grown up," felt like talking to us in a way.
Yeah.
And
No, I agree.
that hit home, man. Especially because I make no secret about it. Spider-Man 2 is my favorite superhero movie ever, even after all the MCU movies. The ones that I actually do like, because I'm very indifferent on it as a whole. But with all the superhero movies that have come out since Spider-Man 2 in 2004, they've never been able. I've never seen a superhero movie to just hit me on the level that it did, and just seeing those two characters like on. Well, actually, I doubt that they were actually on set together. I guarantee,
During COVID.
Yeah. But
either way, it's just such a great, heartfelt moment.
Yeah. Regardless, it was a quick but very nice little moment, and I just wish something like that could have been done with Willem fucking Dafoe and Toby. God damn it!
Oh my god.
But I'm surprised more people don't complain about that.
Jesus. Going back to Andrew, I love how like after he catches MJ, he's like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm okay." And you can see the look on his face of like he's at peace, but he still feels very broken by
Andrew
the fact
Garfield. That guy's such a good fucking actor.
Can I just I think Andrew stole the show every time he showed up on screen.
Oh yeah, no, like this, because I was always very indifferent on him for his portrayal, just because I was just never a fan of the movies themselves. But there was always that part of me that wondered, if he just had better material to work with, and he finally got that better material, and I'm able to fully see, like, wow, you really were a perfect choice. And I'm sorry that you had to endure what you had to put up with in order for a lot of people to really recognize that. Yeah, because I remember right when it came out, there was like immediate demand to do an Amazing Spider-Man 3, which, by the way, I don't know if that will happen, but they could easily do both Amazing Spider-Man 3 and a Spider-Man 4 if they wanted to.
Yeah. I mean, Toby's left it open for him to kind of say, yeah, I can come back maybe if
honestly, like, I always thought it'd be great to have a Spider-Man 4, but it felt like this was enough.
I'm okay with that, yeah.
Yeah, and I would be perfectly content if Toby never came back.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
It felt like, just to know he's doing all right. He's still Spider-Man. Happy life with MJ. He's you can tell that he's the same guy, but you definitely feel that the weight of the years of experience with him. But yeah, just to check in on him, just to be like, you're doing good, man? All right, cool. It was great to see you.
Although I do think that they left. I like how they leave things ambiguous. How Toby leaves things ambiguous as to say there is a potential to continue his story.
I mean,
if they
do decide to make it, fuck yeah, of course I'm there. Only if Sam Raimi comes back. And I think that's the only way. I think that's the only way Toby would commit to a full solo movie too.
Well, I mean, Sam Raimi did come back, and unfortunately, Multiverse of Madness was not so great. So, I know how Jeff feels about that movie. I'm okay with it.
How the fuck could you not have Toby be in there?
Yeah.
You have Sam Raimi, and Toby just came back. God damn it.
It's all right. Bruce Campbell was in it, and that was my and I was the only one in my theater who jumped for joy when Bruce Campbell showed up in his cameo for Multiverse of Madness, and like, yeah, Bruce Campbell, and everyone's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Well, I got a much stranger reaction because I shouted, Dad!
There's a long story that goes with that, but no, Bruce Campbell.
That is yep. Anyone who knows us, yeah, there's a little inside joke there.
Yeah, long story short, not actually father and son, but the joke is great.
It's never been disproven.
So
have you seen this chin?
Jesus Christ. So I like how the movie overall ends. Like, so Peter basically tells Doctor Strange to basically cast a new spell so that everyone in the MCU will forget who Peter is, but that keeps everyone from crossing over, and so the merging of the universes, as you will. Unfortunately, everyone now forgets. Peter is going to try to attempt to get MJ and Ned to remember, but he decides they already seem pretty happy in their lives, and he's not going to interfere. He goes to see Aunt May at her grave. Happy shows up to see to see the grave, and I forget exactly what they talk about, but basically what Happy says inspires Peter to like continue being a superhero. And then it leads into like Peter getting into his apartment. By the way, I am the only one in my
God damn it, how could they not have Mr. Dickovich?
I am the only one in my theater who was like when the guy's like, rent's due first of the month, don't be late. And I'm like, in my head, I was just thinking, rent?
You'll get your rent when you fix this damn door!
But what I like is that like now we have a Peter who is independent. He's decided that he's going to do things his own way. He makes a brand new costume out of scratch that is clearly inspired by Toby and Andrew. It's very blue and red shiny, and then he jumps out into the night, web swings. It's a fantastic final swing, something ripped out of like the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 games. And then you get the credits with 3 is the magic number, but I think De La Soul. Yeah, De La Soul I think is the group. Good group, by the way, but there is a mid-credit scene, and
oh god.
Nope, it sounds like Jeff does not want to acknowledge that scene.
All right. Venom, I think it's hot trash. I never even bothered with the second one because it just looked like more of the same generic shit. And when but I heard about the post-credit scene in Venom 2, and I thought, all right, that could be kind of interesting. And then they just immediately piss away that potential. And so I'm just like, oh, fuck off.
But basically, like Tom Hardy's...
It made the Venom movies feel even more pointless than they already do. Because I think that Sony is just doing what DC did for, at first, just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what's stuck. And because I don't think there's much fan demand for Morbius 2. I'll just leave it at that.
Yes, I definitely agree. I don't know what they're thinking. I haven't seen Morbius, but I'm definitely in agreement with Jeff on that part.
It's okay, no one did.
But basically, he was the fifth villain, or the sixth villain, but Venom in his movies is more of an anti-hero. But basically, he's just trying to figure out, like, what the hell is going on in his universe, and then he gets teleported back to his universe, and then, like, a bit of the symbiote is left. And so it looks like we might get a true official symbiote story in the MCU, and then they just leave it at that, and then the post-credits is just
Spider-Man
a teaser for multiverse.
Spider-Man versus the random bartender. I can't wait. So I wanted to also drive in one point. I love that cafe scene so fucking much when he finally comes to terms, making that hard decision right there that, I need to let them go. And I feel like that's when he truly took on the essence of great power comes great responsibility.
Yes, I definitely wholeheartedly agree.
He's about to, he had it all written down, was trying to rehearse it, and was gonna tell MJ, but without saying much, just able to kind of convey that, they're better off without me in the picture. And if they and honestly, it ends in a way where I would be really interested to see how he picks up his life going forward. I don't think, I know they will, because there's like social media obsession with them as a real life couple, so of course they're gonna get back together in the next movie.
I don't know. I actually wouldn't be surprised if that doesn't happen. Like, they actually try and focus on a different love interest for Peter.
That's what I think they should do, and if they do, then respect. But I don't know. The MCU is very guilty of making creatively bold choices that I respect, and then almost immediately backtrack in the next movie.
You also have to remember this is also a Sony project, so
yeah,
you have to take that into account as well. So anything's up in the air at this point.
But if this was Tom Holland's last movie, I think this would be a perfect ending as well. So either way, I'm at least, if they decide to continue, I want to see what they do with it. I'm officially on board because I finally care about this version of Peter Parker. But if they don't, then I think it's a beautiful swan song. And because this movie is essentially it's like 20 years of history rolled into one when you really think about it.
Yeah.
And it felt like the ultimate celebration, I would say. So yeah, going forward I could take either or.
Well, the movie did make over $1 billion at the box office, and that's impressive for a pandemic movie so far. The only other movie to do that is Top Gun Maverick, which is another fantastic movie that I'm pretty sure we'll talk about at some point. But yeah, I think it was pretty much confirmed afterwards that a fourth movie is going to happen with Tom. No word on when it will happen because, I mean, obviously Marvel revealed their plans for Phase 5 and 6, but Spider-Man wasn't in there because it's also a Sony movie. So once Sony has something for Marvel, then they're gonna work on it. But for now, I agree with Jeff. I like where they ended things. I'm okay if they don't do a fourth Spider-Man movie, but pretty sure after the money it made, they're gonna be like, oh, we're making a fourth one, all right.
Well, also at the time, Spider-Man 3 was the highest grossing, was also like the highest grossing movie out of all three.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So, who the fuck knows?
I mean, anything is up for grabs at this point. So I'm very curious to see what happens going forward. But I think overall, it's pretty clear. Jeff and I are definitely all for this movie.
Yeah. So as someone who's who was on board with the MCU during the Infinity Saga, but post Endgame, I couldn't give less of a shit. Even after looking at the Phase 5 and 6 lineup, I care even less. And this was just so wonderful to see.
Yeah, this is definitely the best of the fourth phase for sure.
Oh yeah. And if so pretty much like if we had to indulge all that other, I was going to call it shit, but I know a lot of people like it, material, I'll leave it at that, to get the diamond in the rough. Worth it.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. This is, so, as I said in the beginning, like, this is, I never really cared for, like, Spider-Man in the MCU because I felt like it wasn't true Spider-Man, but because of this movie, I'll be watching this movie a lot more because it definitely redeems Tom Holland, the Spider-Man in the MCU for me, and it definitely feels like a proper, true Spider-Man movie in that universe. Like, it feels like a proper Spider-Man story overall in general. Like, it is up I mean, obviously Spider-Man 2, I agree, is still the best Spider-Man movie and also one of the best superhero movies ever made. This is pretty close up there. I would still say Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 1, and Into the Spider-Verse are still the top 3 Spider-Man movies, but Spider-Man No Way Home is right after those 4 movies.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, if, like, I know a lot of people who say, you know, that this one's their favorite, and, you know, I can totally see why.
It's a totally valid argument because, as we pointed out, it is a true celebration of Spider-Man in cinema in general, and it works. Like, if you want nostalgia done right, this is it, especially for a superhero movie. And I feel like John Watts, the director, and Kevin Feige, and especially Tom, Andrew, and Toby have delivered something very special. And I'm glad that we finally have a Spider-Man movie to go back to that I feel like a lot of people will definitely watch all over again. It definitely probably elevates the previous two a lot better for some people, but this is the movie I will probably be rewatching more than those other two.
Oh, absolutely. So I actually really want to rewatch all the Spider-Man movies, like do the Raimi trilogy, Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, and then the Home trilogy. And
okay, I have an idea for those if you want to talk about it afterwards.
Uh-oh.
No, I have a good... God damn it. All right, well, everybody, thanks a lot for watching our comeback, if you will, for Two NerdSkis and a Podcast. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at TNAAPcast. That's TNAAPcast. Subscribe here to the YouTube channel because we can finally do audio and visual shit. And of course, we'll still be on any streaming, audio services that we're on, like primarily Apple and Spotify. But everybody, we're back. We're gonna do some more. Who knows what we got upcoming next? But until then, this is Eric,
and this is Jeff. And you know you missed our voices.
And I'm just gonna say, take on this. Oh boy, yeah. Stay shiny, everybody. Have a good one.
Next level.